So my uncle, Captain Victor John Saraceni, was the captain of United Flight 175. Flight 175 was the plane that struck the South Tower on 9/11 that morning. All planes were headed to California, and obviously no different with my uncle's flight. My uncle flew out of Logan that day, which was not his traditional route. He lived in Pennsylvania. He was flying out from Logan Airport in Boston to come out and see me. He was an influence in my life. I didn't have much of a father growing up, and as a pen pal and father figure, he was mine. He was on his way out to see us, and he didn't make it. I was pulled out of 8th grade Spanish class that morning by two gentlemen I'd never seen in my life, and they drove me to my house. Didn't say much in the car. I walk in the door, and I can smell my mom's cooking because Vic was coming out to see us. She had to make his spaghetti and meatballs, and I saw my two sisters and my mom standing in the corner holding each other and crying. I knew our life was different, but I had no idea why. Later, we ended up, while commercial air was still restricted, we ended up flying out of Sacramento International Airport to Pennsylvania. My aunt, my mom's sister, Vic's wife, had really gotten disinterested in speaking to all of the officials, government officials that had to come in and see whether or not our family was involved in any of this mess. So she requested that my mom come out. We flew out immediately, and the next weeks to months were a whirlwind. We had taken our time as a family in all ways, in love, character, trust, and memories. Memories is what we still have. We had police guiding us all the way during his service from Pennsylvania up to New York, up to the site and back. And Vic had a couple thousand people celebrating his life for his funeral. He always joked he'd have two, his mom and the person telling his story. So in looking back on the events of that day and how our nation changed and how my family changed, some for the better, some for the worse, I know Vic would want us all to be proud to be Americans. I know he'd want us all to be proud of who we are. And I know he'd want us all to get after life the way he did. He grew up very, very poor in Jersey, on the Jersey Shore. And as a father figure, he said, me becoming a captain for United Airlines is no different than you playing shortstop for the Yankees, which was my dream. It was also the dream of his daughter, one of his daughters, Brielle. Brielle wanted to play shortstop for the Yankees as well. I guess we all do a little bit. She called Derek Jeter, she wrote to Derek Jeter a few days after 9/11 and told him that my dad would have wanted me to reach out and tell you about my dream. And Jeter gave her a phone call one day. They became fast friends. She now works for the Yankees. There were many differences I spent a couple months after 9/11, 8th grade, pulled out of school, spent a couple months after 9/11 on the East Coast, and there were many differences from my time there to a few months later when I came back home here to Sacramento, California. There was distrust early on back east. There was fear, a little bit of anger, and we all came together. All of those emotions quickly turned into fearlessness and courage. When I came back to California, it wasn't the same. We were still in, at least around me, the tragic mindset. And the tragedy stayed here for some time. Part of me was real proud of that, to know that something that happened on the opposite coast affected us that way. Part of me admires how the East Coast handled 9/11, at least from a 13-year-old's perspective at the time. This nation was forever changed that day. Our family was forever changed that day. We owe an incredible amount of gratitude to all the service workers and all the Americans who gave their part and still to this day are suffering from that. I believe it's true that 9/11 is one of the only attacks on our nation and including our nation that has a continuing death toll. Every single day, that death toll is still live, which means that as service workers continue to pass from the tragic events and their efforts thereafter, they are too to be remembered.